Hello and welcome everybody, it's Stephen again and I'm here to bring you another video which explains how I performed last week in the markets and also explain and give you a summary of some of the key news events that happened last week. So just before we start, I just want to say that I'm recording this video on a Monday morning in Asia time. So I usually put out these videos on either Saturday or Sunday. So we're a little bit later than usual, and the reason behind that was yesterday we had a significant pullback in the crypto markets, which I will go on to a bit later in the video. However, just to let you know, in terms of our results, I've actually decided to cut them off as of Saturday, not because I'm trying to hide any of the results from Sunday, but mainly because the results are not published yet, and also subsequently we've had a recovery on Monday morning, so it's better for me to cut off those results on Saturday. But don't worry, they will be included in our next week's report from what happened on Sunday. So without further ado, the results were actually really good for this week. Again, we actually finished the week about 6% up, which was a really great result, so I'm very happy with that. It was a nice mix of a good performance from my crypto assets as well as some of my stock assets, which I will go onto in a short while. If I actually compare how I performed against some of the indices benchmarks, so the Nasdaq finished about 1.1% up for the week, and the S&P 500 actually outperformed that slightly and did 1.4% up for the week. So all in all, it was a pretty good week in the market for everybody, including our portfolio. So very happy with that. So as we go on to a little bit of news about what happened in the markets last week, there was actually quite a lot of growing optimism in the US about COVID-19 and the recovery. We actually saw really good factory results, and it was actually the highest productivity for the factories and activity for 40 years. So this is actually a really good sign, and it shows that the economy is starting to recover in the US. Also, you also saw a record post-pandemic low for unemployment claims in the US. So it means a lot of people are going back to work. A lot of industries are opening up again. Restaurants, retail actually did very well when they actually released the results for retail in March. So things are improving on that front as well. So all in all, the US economy is looking a lot better with a lot of bright spots. Another couple of things that happened in terms of the coronavirus in the US, Johnson & Johnson, the vaccination has actually been halted. Again, there's been some studies to say that it could potentially cause blood clots. So that's actually put on hold at the moment. But there was some positive news with the Pfizer vaccination, because it was actually released that there was a upside in terms of how much vaccinations they could actually get to patients in the US. So that was a positive spot in terms of the vaccination news. We also saw some inflation figures released in the US last week, where it was said that consumer prices had actually increased by 0.6% in March. A lot of that could be to do with the supply disruptions that actually happened during COVID-19, and there could be a slight lag from that, as well as obviously the new amount of money that was put into the monetary supply. So I think inflation is going to take a little bit of time to play out, but it's definitely something worth keeping an eye on. Also, in other news, Elon Musk's SpaceX actually won a contract with NASA to build a lunar lander, and they were actually up against direct competition from Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin, but they successfully won that bid, and they are hoping to reach the moon by 2024 again. So very, very interesting news there. If we also look at Europe as well and how it performed as a whole, the indices were actually up in Europe. And actually this is a little bit surprising considering of the coronavirus situation in mainland Europe. So there's actually been a spike of cases this week in France and Germany, amongst other European countries. Angela Merkel in Germany is actually trying to rally the government to actually put in new laws and regulations to see whether they can do a curfew in the country to try and further reduce the contact and reduce the cases in Germany. But the indexes have actually done pretty well in all of those European countries. UK actually is a lot of a much bigger, brighter note in terms of coronavirus. So now 2/3 of the population have actually been vaccinated in the country. So this is great. We also saw some lifting of some of the restrictions that were in place because of COVID-19, and now some of the shops are open, and also some of the open air leisure facilities are actually open now to the public. So we're seeing those kind of gradually be lifted, and then further restrictions will actually be lifted again in May. So the UK economy is looking brighter, and it looks like there could be some recovery on its way. So China again this week had a slightly poor week in the markets, and again a lot of this is to do with the way that China wants to recover from COVID-19. They're trying to keep as much fiscal responsibility as possible as they look to recover. As we also know, there's been a lot of focus on China tech. And the Chinese government have actually clamped down on a lot of Chinese tech companies. As you know, over the last couple of weeks, they actually fined Alibaba a significant fine for breaching anti-competition regulations. And they've actually, this week, actually issued a statement to Chinese tech companies that they have approximately 1 month to make sure that they are not breaching anti-competition rules. So this is going to affect some of the Chinese tech companies, but obviously I see it in their best interest to try to make changes and abide by those. So that was it in terms of China news. So now, as I move on to my 5 best performing stocks of last week. So the best performing stock of this week in my portfolio was actually Alibaba. So it actually rose 6.89% for the week. And again, as I just said in the video, that a lot of it was to do with, it was seen as positive news that they got the fine because it allows them to be able to continue their operations and put that to one side, and without fearing further repercussions. So that's actually rose pretty positively, and now that's out of the way, I'm pretty bullish on the future of Alibaba because a lot of its price declines recently has been to do with political issues. The second best performing stock in my portfolio this week is a company called Norilsk Nickel Mining Company. And what they are is they're actually one of the largest mining companies in terms of nickel and copper production. As we may know, nickel is actually quite scarce at the moment, and a lot of nickel is actually used in EV cars, and as we know, there is a lot of demand for those. And actually some news this week in terms of why they performed quite well was because that they are actually planning to increase the nickel production in the Finland facilities to try and produce more to be able to satisfy the demand that's actually present in Europe for nickel. So this is actually really good for the future of this company. Again, I'm very bullish on it moving forward. The third best performing stock for this week is Oracle. Oracle actually performed very well and they rose at 4.46% for the week. The fourth was a company called Aqua. And actually they are a very interesting company because they deal in the filtration process of water. As we know, we always need water in our everyday lives. And this is a company that I can see that we will get steady growth from over time. So that actually performed really well this week at about 4.49%. The fifth best performing stock was SailPoint. They actually rose 2.81% for the week. So those were my 5 best performers. As we move on and talk about crypto, last week was a very explosive and volatile week for crypto as a whole. So the week started off and progressed really well. There was a lot of fanfare around the direct listing for Coinbase earlier on in the week. It was felt that this listing from Coinbase, which is one of the largest crypto exchanges, that it was going to bring legitimacy to the crypto markets as a whole, and a lot of attention was actually focused on crypto. We actually hit all-time highs for both Bitcoin and Ethereum during this week. However, I have to touch upon what happened yesterday on Sunday, where we saw a significant dip in the crypto prices. And a lot of this is down to several reasons. So I'm going to go through them now one by one on some of the possible potential reasons why we saw a dip yesterday. So I guess number one is it's quite common that we see a dip after we hit all-time highs, especially when something rises pretty rapidly. So sometimes it needs to kind of cool off. And when we see some of these pullbacks, we often see that stop losses get activated and these kind of cascade down. So it actually, a lot of people get liquidated, of people that had leverage, and it causes them to either be liquidated or they have to close their positions. And it actually happens quite rapidly. So that's why you see this kind of sharp decline in the crypto prices. So that's kind of one reason. The second reason is there was some news that was actually released by CNBC that made it sound like it was new news, but around the India regulation and the potential banning around Bitcoin and crypto. Again, this is not new news. This was about a month ago, and India are very notorious, as well as China, about changing their stance around crypto depending on how it fits national interests. So it's not something I'd worry about too much. And also, again, around some of the news that happened in Turkey last week, where they tried to, put in a partial ban around holding Bitcoin. But again, a lot of this is to do with their own national interest, because as we know, the Turkish lira it has been performing really bad over the last few years. So really trying to do all they can to get people to use the Turkish lira. In my mind, actually, this is more of an advert for cryptocurrencies, because when governments start to try to put in regulations, etc., around this, it means that it actually provides some legitimacy. And actually, it is in government's best interest as a whole to actually get behind blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies and actually put in regulations that protect the consumer, but also allow for growth of industry in their particular countries. So again, not something that I'm particularly worried about. Also, again, lastly, there was also a blackout in the Xilin province in China. Xilin province and Sichuan actually account for 50% of the Bitcoin mining activity around the world. And actually there was a power outage safety inspection that actually happened. This significantly reduced the hash rate for Bitcoin. But again, Bitcoin is so cleverly designed in terms of the mining that even if that was to persist, which I don't expect it to, there is also difficulty adjustments that take place in the Bitcoin network every 2 weeks. So that would kind of work itself out. And also there's the opportunity for other parts of China and also the world to take on some of that hash rate as well. So again, something I'm not particularly that worried about. We have seen a rise again on Monday morning of crypto prices. So it just shows that although there is a lot of fear around, when these pullbacks happen, it is not necessarily something that you need to worry about too much. You need to know that in most bull markets, we do see dips of somewhere between 10 to 20%, even in bull markets. So what I really try to say to you all is when these things happen, don't panic and try to make wise decisions based on, really clear logic rather than either fear or greed. So what did I do when this was all going on Sunday? Well, I think you have to know that I'm always prepared for potential pullbacks in the crypto markets. So my strategy is to trim crypto positions as we go up in price. And actually last week I closed quite a few positions when we hit all-time highs in certain cryptocurrencies. So I'm always doing that in order to mitigate risks as much as possible. But when the markets pulled back on Sunday, I don't believe in closing all positions and then trying to reopen and timing the best time to reopen them. I think that it's a lot more risky to be out of the market, even temporarily, because as we've seen today on Monday, we've actually seen a pretty significant recovery. So if I had closed my positions, I wouldn't have reaped those benefits. So my strategy is pretty clear. But what I do during these pullbacks and when there is fear in the market is I actually take a lot of short-term positions. So yesterday I actually opened and closed 4 positions in a 5% profit. So I was actually buying the cryptocurrencies when they were near the 24-hour low, and I sold them at 5% profit on recovery. So I did that for Bitcoin, Zcash, Tron, as well as IOTA. So I think this is the way that I kind of manage these pullbacks, and I actually soften the blow by doing some of these short-term trades. So all in all, it's worked pretty well for me over the last 2 years. Thank you very much for listening to this video. I hope you found it very useful. As usual, if you have any questions on anything, please feel free to leave them below, and I'm happy to reply to you. I consider it my responsibility to try to make you as much profit and protect your capital as much as possible, because I know it's your hard-earned money. But I also try to provide as much added value as I can. So providing strong communication, analysis of the markets, and also trying to educate you, because I feel that a lot of copiers actually copy popular investors not only to make profit, but also to learn something and become better investors. So I will keep trying my best to keep communication flowing. Thank you very much, and I look forward to interacting with you all this week. Have a great week ahead.